Joe DeMarco from the Crazy New York Driver Show. It's Monday night, and the date is May 11th, 2026. Welcome to a special edition of my life story videos. Tonight, I'm going to devote an entire video to one topic. And the topic is the fact that we went to see Godspell in the 9th grade. I think you'll enjoy my little Godspell story and the adventures we had at our first Broadway play. There's a common misthought out there that because I live in the New York City area, I've been to see a lot of Broadway plays. Not true. I've seen in my life two, both as kids. The first was when I was in 9th grade, class trip to see Godspell. The second one was a few years after that. We went to see Gemini. But I'm not going to be talking about the Gemini play tonight. We're going to be talking about Godspell. And I would like to firstly tell you a little bit about my 9th grade religion class, if I may. And I got a couple of pictures to show you before we get started with the story. So, 9th grade for religion, it started out with us not having a dedicated teacher. Now, I know that sounds crazy to a lot of you guys, but there were several school years when we did not have a dedicated teacher for whatever reason. Maybe they couldn't find somebody, whatever. I went to Catholic school for 12 years, kindergarten through 12th grade. And as I said, 9th grade started out, we were first given a teacher, a brother, which is just like a priest, only a little bit less on the stature. And he was a really good teacher. He was, I guess, late 20s, early 30s. Excellent teacher, no complaints. But then they needed him to teach another class for seniors. So they yanked him out and they gave us this other brother who was about the same age, but I'm going to nickname him Brother Somonix because he could put anybody to sleep. Oh my God. He was the total opposite of the original teacher. But thankfully, Brother Somonix was only a temporary until we finally got somebody a few months into the school year, a lay teacher. And I'm going to introduce you to him now, talk about him. He was one of my top 5 teachers in my life. This guy, I have nothing bad to say. He was just a great teacher, okay? As I said, I had him 9th grade for religion. I would also have him in 12th grade for Introduction to Philosophy and Human Values. I will show you a picture of him. This is him walking in the hall. That's him walking in the hall with his briefcase, okay? And we will call him by the first letter of his last name, which is the letter B, Mr. B. While I happen to have this yearbook in my hands, I want to show you one other picture unrelated to this video, but it has to do with creative writing and public speaking. The man sitting on the desk in this picture, that man, that guy, he was my creative writing, public speaking teacher. Another one of the great ones. One of the top 5. And we're not going to talk about him tonight either because I want to talk about Godspell. So, in my high school, they did not have class trips. Absolutely nothing was allowed during the day that would take 1 minute away from scholastics. Nothing. No DWI classes, no drug lessons, nothing. Scholastics or nothing. Luckily, we were able to go to the Godspell show because it was at night. It happened to be a Wednesday night. I remember it vividly. So, my whole class went. There was about 35 kids. The chaperone, of course, was Mr. B, along with 2 other teachers. One of the teachers was a history teacher who always drove the school bus. Now, I'm not referring to the yellow school bus that picked us up in the morning and afternoon. I'm talking most schools, a lot of high schools, Catholic schools especially, have their own dedicated school bus with the name of the school on the side of it. Very common. So this one teacher and one teacher only drove the school bus. I think he might have been the only one licensed to do it. But anyway, to show you how my 14-year-old brain worked, I remember thinking back then that buses and trucks were not allowed on the West Side Highway. And I said to myself, oh, I hope he doesn't know that. I hope he takes us downtown on the West Side Highway, which I would have loved. But he knew it, so he took us down on Broadway, dropped us off, and into the play we went. We were the only kids in the play, of course. Everybody else was adults that went to see Godspell. And it was just a great experience. The play itself was excellent. They had an over-the-top rocking soundtrack. Wonderful. Sometime later, I think, they even made a Godspell movie, which is available on YouTube. You can see it if you want. And I was thinking, if there's enough interest, I might do a video location about the movie Godspell, meaning showing you scenes from the movie and telling you exactly where in New York City they were filmed. So if you'd be interested in seeing that, comment section. If not, that works too. I don't mind. Less work for me. But anyway, one of the things I remember vividly about the play was there was a section maybe halfway through the play, kind of like intermission, but kind of not, where they would get to a point and they would say, okay, everybody, come on down and have some wine. And we, the audience, were allowed to go on stage and mix with the cast and drink wine. 14-year-old kids drinking wine? I'm not kidding, but we did it. And it was fun. And again, long live the 1970s. I remember, apparently we got the tickets in bulk. I guess Mr. B handled that. I'm not sure. I don't think he went to the TKTS booth, but we got the tickets in bulk, so we probably got them at a reduced rate. Great. And we went, and because we got them at a reduced rate, it's not like all 35 kids sat in one section. Maybe there was 10 of us here, 10 over there, 5 over there. We were spread all around. I was with my best friend at the time. Daniel was his name. And he was sitting next to me. And there's a part in the play when they sing the song, Turn Back, Oh Man, where they talk about renouncing bad behavior, bad habits, such as, I have to say this on there, prostitution. And I remember at that section of the play, the women who were singing and dancing would come down into the aisles and not kind of flirt, but you know what I mean. And I remember looking over to the far left, because we were on the right, and I could see one of the women was right by Mr. B. I said, and he had an aisle seat. I said, oh, wow, this is wonderful. And yeah, like I said, Godspell was the first Broadway play I ever went to see. And I'm sure most of you know that it has to do with basically a kind of updated version of the Bible. And one of the class projects that Mr. B assigned us, and I remember this vividly because we had a long 2-week block of time off for Easter, and we were assigned to translate the book of Genesis to modern day verse. We had to read the book of Genesis and then translate it into 1970s lingo. Get it? And let me tell you something. This was one of the projects I really, really enjoyed doing. Okay? And I remember what he wrote on my paper when he handed them back. He wrote A+. He said, "I believe this demonstrates considerable effort on your part." And it did. And I enjoyed it. I worked on that, believe it or not, partially at the house, at home, and partially in the Bronx, New York, because if you remember the video I put out last, when I was talking about having a dream and running into a teacher, I was working on that at their house, at their apartment. So the work was done half in New Jersey and half in the Bronx, but it came out really, really good, and I was very satisfied with my efforts on that. Like I said, a good teacher will make all the difference in the world in how students do. Not just a teacher who knows the material, but somebody who can make it interesting and somebody who can make it fun. Mr. B was one of those guys. He was one of my top 5. He went on to become a principal of a school, in fact. Now, I think he just retired recently, because by now he'd have to be 75, I'm guessing. So I'm sure he's retired by now, but he was one of the great ones, all right? So was the first guy I talked about, the first brother, Brother S. He was a great teacher too. And in these crazy coincidences where you don't believe you're going to run into somebody, I'm coming out of the UPS store maybe around 4 years ago. Well, actually, I'm not coming out. I'm going in with my hands full of boxes. And a man comes out, an older guy, and he holds the door for me. I look at him. I said, "Wait a minute. Are you a teacher?" He said, "Well, yes. I used to be, but I'm retired." I said, "I know you. I had you for religion, freshman year." He said, No, you must be mistaken." He goes, "I only teach seniors." I said, "I know that, but remember, you taught my class of freshmen for about a month and a half, and then they yanked you out, and then they brought in another teacher." So I had to remind him about that. Unfortunately, I got news a few months ago. He passed away recently at age 80 or 81. But yeah, he was one of the good ones too. And about Mr. B again, as I said, I went on to have him a senior year for modern philosophy and human values. Very good teacher. Very good teacher. We learned about existentialism and all those good things. One thing I remember about him vividly, I'm not sure if I should bring this up on this video or not, because it has nothing to do with Godspell, but I'll just touch on this one topic. In high school, we experienced our first incident of a student losing his life. The first time is always the roughest, and this kid actually rode the bus with me to school every day. I'm not going to get into the whole story. Maybe I'll do a video about it someday if you're interested. But I remember we were super bummed out, and this school, being the school that it was, would not employ grief counselors or anything like that. There was no discussion about it. Luckily, the first day back to school after it happened, a kid raised his hand as our philosophy class was going to start, and he asked Mr. B something about it, and all the other kids started talking at one time, myself included, and Mr. B said, "Okay, I get it. He went right to the door, he shut the door, and he goes, "I understand you guys want to talk about this, let's talk about it." And he devoted the whole period to talking about the loss of our fellow student who wasn't there. He was the only teacher who was willing to do that, and he was a really good guy. And like I said, that's the only class trip I went on that year. All right? Good old Mr. B took us to see Godspell. I've been watching the YouTube movie Godspell recently, and it's been on my mind to do this video, so I figured I would do it. And I want you guys to go out there and have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this little life story. Please react as you see fit. And as you can see in the background, my dog is sound asleep. I literally put her to sleep. Thanks for watching. I'm Crazy New York Driver. You're not. Rock on and peace.